Hello all, and we're going to continue where we left off by doing blend shapes on the face. Now the way we're going to be doing this is we're going to be basically taking the mesh itself that we have here, and we're going to duplicate this. But before we do, you probably noticed that I added a little something on my person. Now this is basically, again, the eyebrows. Now the reason why I added these on is, well, pretty obvious. I wanted the character to look a little bit better, and I felt that adding eyebrows would help with that. And to be honest, I feel that she does look quite a bit better. This is what she looks like without the eyebrows. This is what she looks like with the eyebrows. The way that I made these is actually pretty simple. This area was originally a box, and I extruded it once, twice, 3, and then 4 times to basically get the look that I have here, and then did some minor sculpting. If you want to make your own eyebrows, which I would strongly recommend you do a little research. I did mine in Bing for some reason, although Google, Bing, whatever. As long as you could do references on eyebrows, it should give you a general idea of how it should look. But the eyebrow style was going here, it gets a little bit thicker here, gets a little bit thinner here, and then arcs down like so. That's one of many different ways that you can go with this. It all depends on exactly what you feel works better for you. So if you feel that method works great, go for it. If you want to go for some different ones, you can. This one looks pretty strange, but you know what? I'm not judging. And there's other ones that are a little bit thicker or thinner. And again, whatever you feel works better for your character, there's no shortage of different styles you can go with. But I definitely would recommend adding the eyebrows, as they could be a huge help to what you're going to be doing here. Okay. So now the next part, I'll get back to that in a second, is basically getting the head outwards. So what I recommend doing is, oh, by the way, I also made sure that I gave these their own proper layer and everything like that. That could be helpful later. But in terms of this, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the eyebrows and the head, and I'm going to copy them simultaneously. The way you do that is hit Shift-D to give it a clone or duplicate. I'm going to bring these over here like so. That's going to be my first priority. Now I'm going to give these a very specific name, but before that, I also want to basically copy the eyes as well. The reason why I'm going to be bringing over the eyes is they're going to help when I have to do blinks. If I'm going to be bringing this down, knowing exactly where my eye is and so on will help with that process. So for that, I would copy these as well, but you have to be a little careful because these are already kind of put into place with the skinning. So for this, to basically make this work at its best, you're going to have to do 2 things. One, we're going to make duplicates of these. Now, your best bet for this is probably going to the outliner, and then once you make your copies, by hitting Control or Shift-D, I'll leave that up to you, you'll see that the copies come down here. That's going to be important. Now, once that's done, you're going to go to Skin, and you're going to go to Unbind Skin. Now, this should basically make this independent from the actual skinning, and that, of course, is going to be a helpful thing. The only thing is, it's not going to quite separate it right away, so that's unfortunate. So you're going to also delete the history and also unlock this. So this is something new that we haven't really done yet that we're going to do now. You'll have to do it individual eyes first. That's one of the reasons why having the outliner is a helpful thing to do. So I'm selecting my left eye copy. I'm going to select all the different parts over here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose the option Unlock Selected. That'll basically take this little area that's currently grayed out, basically showing that we can't do anything with it, and it'll allow us to move it again. And I'm going to do the same thing for the right eye. Select it. Click at the top, hold Shift, select the bottom, right click, and Unlock Selected. Once that's done, this area will no longer be grayed, and I can basically select both of these at the same time and move them over. Now, ideally, you want to make sure that they're in roughly the same spot they were before, because that's going to be a huge help. So that should work for our purposes. Yeah, because again, the important part is that we basically see where the actual eye is in those cases. Now, I'm going to be moving this up a little bit. Oop, Just make sure you don't select anything you didn't mean to select. That's going to be important. Okay. Now this next part is going to be important as well. Now we're going to be basically making an extra copy of all this. So Shift D, and I'm going to bring this up. Now what I'm going to be showing is going to be working on the side of caution. And now what I mean by that is we're basically going to be using this as a bridge to do all of our facial expressions. The reason why we're going to be making a bridge mesh is for safety, because again, once we actually skin this onto our head, then it is, well, technically in this case it's going to be our head and our neck. There's almost no going back for the reason that if there's anything that needs to be done, it really should be done before we go to this step. So if we need to add in facial expressions later, we can easily and safely make it onto a bridge mesh like what we have over here, versus if we try to put it directly to the mesh over there. There might be some issues, there might be some elements that might not work well, and if you put it onto your main mesh, it basically means that you might be in a little trouble later. But if you put it on the bridge, no big deal, because again, anything that's put on the bridge can easily be changed and adjusted anyway. So in short, a bridge is just for safety. So in this case, I'm going to go to my eyes. I'm going to call these eyebrows instead of prime. I'm going to call this bridge. And for the skull, I'm going to also call this face bridge. Okay. The eyes themselves, you can pretty much name whatever you want, because they're not going to actually be blend shaped. They're basically there just to make sure that the eyes close properly. And if they do, fantastic. And if they don't, then we can still make adjustments and changes after the fact. Okay, so anything that you need to change in terms of facial expressions, you'll be copying from here. So I'm going to call this one face standard. And these eyebrows, I'm going to name these eyebrow standard. So if you need to make copies, you do it from here. If you need to make more copies later, you also do it from here. Okay. So, with all these, again, with my standards basically ready to copy, I'm going to hit Shift or Control D, up to you. I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to basically do my facial expressions. Now, there's a couple ways you could approach this before I actually even do this myself. The first way that a person could do this is they can look up references. So if I do a little reference over here, do a little search for facial, or whatever that was. Let's see. Facial expressions. And this potentially could get you started, at least to give you an idea of a couple elements. Big things to look at when you're doing facial expressions is how does the face contort? How do lips kind of go in and out? Big thing that a lot of rookies miss is how far down does the jaw go? A lot of people just try to do the facial expressions just on the lips without realizing the jaw has a huge impact on how the facial expressions are going to look. So it's sometimes a good idea to take a look at some references like what we have over here. You definitely could see a huge difference between the kind of smile that we have over here versus the jaw going down like this. And those are the small details that are going to make your animation much better. So it's not like certain animations out there, particularly 90s Japanese anime, and it's basically to say that because I love it myself, but if you actually take a look at how a lot of the facial expressions were done, it was almost like lip flapping, and it was weird when the jaws didn't actually move up and down. So when it comes to 3D, you can't get away with it quite as easily. So if you have some facial expressions done, again, if you have your lips closed, don't have to really worry about that so much, but you have your lips open, particularly if the mouth is open big time, yeah, that jaw is going to be going down. So you're going to want to keep that in mind. So these are some pretty good references. Again, just doing a quick search can help you with that. Alternatively, the best reference you can have is for yourself. And what old school animators used to do is they actually took a moment using big mirrors to get an idea of how facial expressions will work in these cases. So they'd like take a look at how their own faces would contort and then try and put that onto the drawings themselves. A similar technique could be used in 3D animation. Instead of animating this the way that they're doing, you can use yourself as a reference to eventually make all these wacky faces. It wasn't unusual, and here's the mirror that I was talking about before. Here's a really good picture over here. With the animator looking at Bugs Bunny and basically trying to replicate his own face onto, in this case, over here. Now, of course, you don't need a big mirror like this, although it does help. You could even just use your camera phone for this. Or if you have a tablet, you can even take a bigger picture. But either way, just finding yourself some references can be a huge help when doing this. So one of the facial expressions I need to get is an open mouth. Okay, so I'm going to do an open mouth where the jaw is going down a little bit. So now, nice thing about the way that my is set up is if I want to bring this down a little bit, I can turn on Symmetry. So now if I select this, go to Vertex, what I do to one side basically happens to both. And yeah, the hard part is just trying to get only what's necessary. So anything that's not necessary, deselect it if you can. So it looks like a good chunk of that was deselected. And yeah, might turn on the soft selection. I think I'm going to turn that up a little bit. Now I'm not going to show the showing of every single facial expression. I'm going to make a couple. I'm not going to lie to you there. But at the very least, I can show you how to get started for this. And of course, once I have my facial expressions done, then we'll move on to the next task, which would be basically putting those on. Now the tough part in this is you have to make sure that you only get what you need. So in this case, I want to bring this down. I want to open this up a little bit, but I don't want to bring the top area so much. So I could try to get this on the surface, and that hopefully will help a little bit, but it can only help so much. Yeah, so you might be able to get a good start with this, but you also might need to go in here and eventually move other parts up yourself. So I'm just going to, yeah, so in this case, I rotated this down. I'm going to rotate this back a little bit. I got to be careful not to bring this other area down that much. And again, just take a quick look and make sure that there is a good difference. Now, I have to admit, I really don't need to bring over the eyebrows for this one because again, it is just moving the lips down, but occasionally looking at your original can be helpful. Wouldn't be a bad idea as well to have a little bit of exaggeration, like what I'm doing over here. Yeah, there we are. That's looking pretty nice. Again, the soft selection can be a huge help when you're doing this, but always keep track of just some of your original stuff because, again, you don't want to overdo it. And that's looking actually pretty good. Cool. So I'm pretty happy with this, at least for now. Now, important thing that I didn't really show too much last time, but I'm going to show this time. It wouldn't be a bad idea to actually name everything as well. So I'm going to name this open mouth. And I really don't need this other stuff here, to be honest. So, although it's going to look a little strange, the mouth is not going to have a factor in what I'm doing over here, so I'm going to lose those other parts. Yeah, that looks freaky. But at the same time, at least it's going to serve its purpose. Now, just to be safe, because I don't want to have to do all this again, I'm going to call this Blendshapes or BS1. Horrible name, I know, but I think that right now it's accurate for Blendshapes, not anything else. Okay. So yeah. So if I want to, I could even have a closed mouth, or a mouth that's a little bit more closed. Because right now, the mouth is just a smidge open. Not really a deal breaker, to be honest, but for some people it might be. So I can bring this part of the lip up, bring this part of the lip down a little bit. But even though it's a small change, it's still there. And I'm going to name this closed mouth. Now again, it's important, as I stated before, that when you make these facial expressions, you cannot add a single polygon, you cannot delete a single polygon. The only thing that you can do is sculpt. You do anything more, you're going to lose your details and such, and that definitely will not be good. Okay, so yeah, the brow area is probably going to take a little bit more time. So I'm not sure if I'm going to show that, as it's going to take a little bit of time in that case. But some of these other parts are not going to take that long, so I can take a moment to show these. I might actually skip the ooh for now, but the E mouth, what I'm talking about that is, let's see, something around the line of maybe this, or maybe something more like this. The reason why we're adding that in is, at the very least, we could add some minor what's called mouth motions that could be a starting point for lip syncing later. Now, lip syncing is in no way, shape, or form a required element for this class, but I still want to at least have the option that we can have a good variety of stuff. But yeah, we're basically bringing the lips a little bit further back. It's almost like a smile, to be honest, but we're not going to quite go that far. But again, it's a lip, so I don't need the eyebrows or the other parts. And I'm not going to be bringing this up, so... Oops. So that's why I have it this way. E. And I'm bringing this up a little bit. E. So this area is going to go up. This area is going to go down. And again, this isn't meant to be a smile. This is basically meant to be an E. So I'm bringing this back a lot. Now, again, even if you exaggerate a little bit, there's nothing really wrong with that per se. So this is going to go down a little bit. This is going to go up a little bit. And I'm not going to bring the jaw down in this case, mostly because if you make an E look, you're still going to potentially have any teeth you have a little clenched in. But this should be good for what we have, what we need. So I'm going to leave that as is, and I'm going to name this E. Okay. Now, I'm not going to lie, the ooh is probably going to be the toughest one. So, taking this again, Shift D, bring it over here. Again, do not forget to label these. When you get to the facial expressions, it will save you so much time when you do that. I probably shouldn't be going, oh, when I'm doing my tutorial, but I think that it explains how important this is. So if I'm going to be doing an ooh face, let's see if we can find some references here. Let's see, facial expressions, ooh. Oop. Yeah, there's definitely lots of other expressions here. Let's see. Ironically, the probably one of the better ones is this kid. But what's going to happen here, as you can see here, though this will be like a starting point, the lips are going to be tuckered in a little bit. The size of the lips are going to go in. These areas are going to be pushed out a little bit more, and that's basically the gist of it. So even though I'm not sure if this was meant or if this is even real, this might be photoshopped, it does show a really good reference for us. So once again, gonna select my vertices, and this is going to be tough because you need to bring this in and still make it look good. So, ooh. And this area over here is going to be rotated a little bit. So I'm going to have to bring this up a little. So again, all this is taking the soft selection to basically make this work. Like the person who made the undo button, I think I might have to buy the person who made the soft selection a lunch or something, because, oh my goodness, this makes things so much easier. And again, I would bring the sides in a little bit more. Ah, there we go. Oh, yes. And I'm going to stretch this out a little bit too. And again, it's not a bad idea to oversell it a little bit, because even if it's oversold, you don't necessarily need to go out the entire way. I mean, when you're actually on those controllers, as you saw previously, you could do it a little bit, and that actually would work pretty nicely. So I'm going to make this ooh, my ooh face. And again, you could always combine faces later, should you need to. So that's 4 of my faces already there. Now, of course, the other ones would be the smile and the frown, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, I can just get rid of that for now. Again, for any of you who want to see this article, it's a really good one, by the way. It's called "The Disney Animators Study Their Reflection in Mirrors to Draw Classic Character Facial Expressions." And if you have the time to take a look at these pictures, it's definitely very educational, if anything else. And it's definitely worth a look. So, but I don't need this anymore, so I'm going to get out of there, Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, I got quite a bit of it done already. And I just realized I need to actually put in a blink in here. So I'm going to put that in momentarily so that everyone can have that too. But I'm going to show the smile for a second. So got those. And, well, here comes the next one. Now, the other one that's here, like the smile and the frown, well, actually the frown, you probably could do both sides, and that'll probably be fine. But when it comes to the smile, I usually recommend that you do them side to side, similar to what we saw in previous examples. The reason why is if you can do that, basically just do it on one side, you can add a little bit of an offset between both sides to make it a little bit more organic. So it isn't just both sides are perfectly put every single time. When it came to the other areas like the ooh, the e, and the mouth closed and the mouth open, that's a bit of a different story. That did have to be the same. But when it comes to smiles, you could always go with something that would be that is offsettable. I mean, after all, if you're going to get the Vegeta half smile, then you need to basically do it one side at a time. So I always have to basically explain this, but yeah, I mean, yes, it's anime, but it's also animation too. And anytime I'm thinking of a cocky smile, just having that half smile over there just makes all the difference in the world. So, but again, that's optional. But if you do want this to look a little bit less a little bit more organic. That'd be the best way to say it. This is a good way to go. So let's see. There we are. I'm going to, so yeah, I'll do this without the symmetry. So I'm turning off my symmetry, turn this on. I'm going to deselect for a moment. And yeah, just to make that smile, you have to do a combination of rotating, obviously, like this. You're going to have to move this up a little bit. You're going to have to move this back a little bit. And again, it wouldn't be a bad idea to oversell it. And if you have to, hit F so that you're not having to rotate all over the place. Yeah, so this is getting some extra dimple in there. Yeah, that is way too much, but that's okay. No, it's actually too much. Yeah, but I can bring this over a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Now again, the hard part is basically making sure that you get the other side as close as you can. Yeah, there we go. Let's see how this looks. If anything else, it definitely has the Vegeta half smile. So, going to do the same thing with this one. Let's look at some of the vertices around here. By the way, just so you a heads up, I'm using a soft selection of 2, but it might be different per person. So if it looks a little bit, if your version looks a little bit off, that's okay. But again, I'm moving this up a little bit to really bring out that smile, bringing that over and back. Just try not to overdo it too much. Yeah, there we go. And if it's a little bit off, that's not necessarily the end of the world. Yeah, there we go. Huh. So that ended up working out pretty well. And I'm going to do the same thing for the frown a little bit later, but let's see. So this is, according to this, our character's left side. So I'm going to name this left, or let's see, smile left. This one is going to be smile right. Now please bear in mind that the direction I'm doing this is our character's, not mine. It's been a while, so I'm going to save this. And since I'm on a roll and still got a little bit of time, I think I'm going to actually try and finish some of the other parts. If it starts to get a little bit late, I'm not going to, I'll let everyone else make theirs on their own, but hopefully this gives you an idea of how to approach this. Yeah, for a frown, again, you could basically select one of the vertices over here. And again, you could basically do this in a way that, yeah, there we are. You could do this in a way that kind of oversells it a little bit. Because you don't necessarily need to go all the way out like that. Yeah, that's a little too much. I'm just rotating a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. And this is frown left. Getting the frown right. But with this, that'll basically take care of all the required elements for this. And again, just selecting one of those verts, just bringing this down, rotating this a little bit, bringing that over, and bringing this down a little bit more. Bringing that back. So hopefully, again, you won't have to go quite that far down, but you know, it's always good to have the option just to be safe. Okay. So there's all my faces for just this, just for the mouth. This isn't even including the eyes yet. Now, for the eyes, because of the way that they're set up, I definitely want to take a moment to actually get all the elements that I have here because I'm actually going to be making blend shapes for the eyebrows as well, because that's how they work, at least in this case. And yeah, so for that, for the first part, I'm going to actually show how to do a blink. So I don't need the eyebrows so much for, oh, do I need those? Let's see. Not in this case, because again, I can always just make the brow down help out with that, but more on that later. So I'm going to hit Shift D and bring this over. Again, once this is actually properly done, you don't necessarily need to keep some of this stuff. Okay, so I did save this already. Now this is where it gets tricky, because I need to basically bring down this eye so that it basically covers this section, well, in a way that looks remotely organic. So you can bring this down a little bit, but you also might need to bring it forward, so do keep that in mind. So let's see over here. I might actually have to turn down the amount of soft selection. Oh yeah, I definitely need to. So I'm going to change this to 1 instead, and hopefully this will work a little bit better. Nope, not quite. 0.5. Yeah, there we go. Select these two areas, bring this down. Select these two areas, bring these down. Again, if you have to focus in that area, just hit F for focus. Once you get far enough down, you'll select the next two sections. And once you get to, you'll select that one as well. And then once you get far enough down, I'd say around the halfway-ish point, you're going to bring this area up, because again, when you're doing an actual eyelid, it's not going to just be bringing this eye down in those cases. You have to bring this area up a little bit. So I'm going to even that out over here. Going to bring these two areas, bring those up. Select there and there. Bring these up a little bit more. If necessary, you might need to move them forward a bit, as you can see over here. And then the hard part is just bringing the rest of this down. So in some cases, you might just have to do it one at a time. You have to also be careful of your textures too. The blink might be quick, but you still don't want to overdo it. And again, whenever you're doing this, follow the topology the best you can. The blinks are low-key, one of the more challenging parts of the whole deal. If any areas look a little bit off, just try and fix it. I'm trying to make sure that this area is staying roundish when I'm doing this. Again, when in doubt, just follow the topology. And there's going to be some cases where maybe having the soft selection might not be the best idea to have turned on. So if you have to turn it off temporarily to fix up a spot, then so be it. Okay, not too shabby. Of course, the tough part is basically doing the other eye. Again, if this is one of those things that you want to basically select them both at the same time and do the blink, there's nothing wrong with that. Far from it. But again, if you wanted to actually have a character wink, then you could do it this way. Or alternatively, and this is actually a totally okay option to do, you can have one wink like this, and then you can have another one where both the eyes go down at the same time. That's perfectly fine, and probably would make the process way easier. So I'm going to actually do that, except I forgot to select everything when I was bringing that over. So don't forget the eyebrows, the eyes, and actually I don't need the eyebrows in this case. Hit Shift D and then bring this over. Okay. So once again, if I want to do the same thing here, I'm just going to turn on my symmetry again. I'm going to turn on my soft selection. I can hit F so I can see what I'm doing. Bring this, and I'm selecting basically the innermost section with this. Like, yeah, there we go. If you need to, select Q so you can get your bearings down. But yeah, there we are. I'm going to bring this down till it reaches those areas. Going to take these two, bring it down. Select these two, bring them down. And again, your topology might be a little bit different. So if that ends up being the case, that's fine. But I think this will give you the general idea of how you can approach this. I'm a little overdoing it. Bringing this down. And of course I can bring this area forward a little bit. And both these to round this out. Okay. I think that's working okay. And again, if it starts to get into a situation where you can't work with this as well, turn off your soft selection and that will help. Yeah, there we go. Okay, well, just have to get the bottom area over here, or I could just keep this character looking a little bit drowsy, and that works too. But bring this up a little bit, bring these two areas up a little bit. Again, some good references will help with this. And if necessary, move these areas forward a bit. Also, if necessary, move other areas down a bit more to basically help. Now, this is one of the reasons why making sure that both sides are exactly the same can be so helpful, because this trying to get both those blinks perfectly would be very difficult. But now that I have done it this way, I have one for blinking and one for winking. Yeah, one for blinking, one for winking. That sounds terrible, but it works, as you can see here. So technically I don't really need the eyeballs anymore, so I'm just basically moving these over just to avoid some clutter. If you can hear that little bell, that would end up being my cat, who wants to help out apparently, or she's found something she's basically fighting with. Sorry about that. Okay, but again, don't forget to actually name these. So I'm going to call this one Wink. I'm going to call this one Blink. Cool. As I said before, a little bit later I will add the blink and the wink for my faces. Okay. So now I just need the brows up and brows down. So once again, now this is the part where you're definitely going to want to bring over the eyebrows with you when you do this. So it's been a while since I'm going to save this up. Shift D, and I'm going to bring this over. Now these ones I definitely want to do separate. So this first one, I'm going to be taking my brow over here, and I'm going to lift that up a little bit. Again, my best bet is use the soft selection to help. I'm going to try, emphasis on the word try, to bring this area by itself. Yeah, this one I'm definitely going to need to put a value of at least 1, or possibly 2. You have to be careful too, by the way. You have to make sure that you don't accidentally bring up the eyes more than necessary. So yeah, this might be a little too strong. So a value of 1.75 maybe. Yeah, still a little strong. Okay, that's not so bad. Let's see, maybe just a little bit less. I could bring it up like this. Now, that was just a quick little experiment to see if that worked okay. But like before, I want to do this one at a time. So I'm going to turn off my symmetry. Again, being able to put a little bit of an offset between those areas will benefit you more. And even if it's a little bit off, that's not necessarily the end of the world. So there we are. And basically I'm going to be trying to mimic this the best that I can. So I'm rotating this mostly like what I'm doing here, but you could also take some verts and just move them a little bit. Like this. Now there we are. So again, it's probably overdoing it a little bit, but that's fine. Now there we go. If you might need to turn on, just go to my shading, turn on the wireframe on shading, just to kind of get an idea of how far you've gone. So yeah, that went up quite a bit, which definitely will help with better realism. Oh, by the way, I'm going to name this one over here left brow up. And for this one, I'm going to put this eyebrow left up. Again, it's a good idea to keep those organized. And again, I'm going to take this area over here and bring this over. I'm going to try and bring this up and over in a way that's very similar to what I have over here. So that is going to be a little tricky, but still doable. Actually, what I'm going to try here is I'm going to try I'm going to try the faces this time, see if I get some simpler luck with this. I think I might actually. And then basically just do the same thing over here. Make sure my vertices, these ones go up. Now, a little bit of a heads up, though I think most of you probably figured it out by now, is this. When you move, the only thing that the blend shape is going to move is only the elements that you move. So for example, this, when I do my blend shapes, that area there is not going to be changed at all. There we go. So there's a little bit of an offset, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. So this is left brow up. This is right brow up. Make sure I got my left and my right correct. Yeah. Call this one eyebrow left up, so this one will be eyebrow right up. And we're at the home stretch, ladies and gents. If you think that you have a good feel for this, you feel free to skip ahead, because I am going to show how to put this onto our person. Ooh, it's getting almost to the hour point. So I'll try not to spend too much time on that. Okay, there we are. And again, for bringing the brow down, I'm just going to bring this down a little bit. I'll just select that one down there. Bring that down. Bring that over. And again, I do want this person to seem a little bit upset because of obvious reasons. And again, I'm kind of overdoing it too, because, well, I want this to be over-exaggerated. And again, hit F to basically get a little bit more focused if you need to. Yep, there we go. And if necessary, move individual parts to help. And again, I am way over exaggerating. Hopefully I'd never have to go quite this far. Okay, so this is left brow down. And this is brow left down. Okay, then do the same thing for the other side. Again, just making my copies. Don't really need my eyes, so that's why I'm not bringing it with me. But I am putting them next to each other so I can keep at least a relatively consistent look. Again, if you do basically select both sides at the same time and bring it down that way, you are more than welcome to do so. That is perfectly legit. But I just want a little bit more control, so that's why I'm taking the time to do this. And of course, I'm overdoing it a little bit, so I have some more, well, so this has a little bit more oomph to it. And again, you have to use the vertices for your movements. There we go. So it's pretty close to what I was looking for. And just like that, I think we got all the faces. Yep, we got our wink, we got our blinks, we got the two brows on both sides. And we have all the facial expressions over here. So basically, looks like it took me about an hour to, well, not really an hour, but close to an hour to get all this. So definitely make sure you allocate enough time to do this. Because again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, if you count the wink, to get all that. And that's not even all the facial expressions you can do. You could go way further, but for now, we're actually pretty good. So I'm going to save what I have. And the next part does get a little confusing, so I'm going to make sure we take our time and get this as right as we can. Okay, so this is basically how this is going to work. So I'm going to save this first, and I'm going to save this as a new file, because right now I'm ready to put my facial expressions where they need to go. I'm going to call this BS2, as this is the second step. Okay. Now, as stated, what we're going to be doing for this is this head is meant to be the bridge between these heads and this one over here. It's meant for more safety purposes, as I said before, and if we do want to add in faces, similar to what I showed for the previous lesson, it's way safer to add it to this than to add to the original. So that's why we have our bridge. Now, when we're about to put these heads onto this, remember, you're only selecting just the faces, not the eyebrows at all. So see if you can find an area that you can select easily without accidentally selecting the eyebrows, if that's the way that you're going to be going, obviously. And then select your head. The face, in this case, should be the last thing you select. Once that's done, you can go to Deform, Blend Shape, and I'm going to call this Facial BS. Horrible name, but it works if anything else. And create. So now, if I was to take a look at the facial BS, I can go in here. I can make sure that everything works properly. And I just realized I didn't name something. So this is the Frown right. Nice thing about this is if you need to, you can always rename it later. But what the heck, I have no problem showing this again. So let's see. So this is Frown left. This is the one I didn't name. So this is Frown right. Cool. So that's one of the reasons why it's always a good idea to double check your stuff. And yep, so again, I'm selecting only the heads, none of the eyebrows or anything else. So yeah, this is one of those things that you can't just try to do it as quickly as possible. You need accuracy when you're doing this. If you selected anything else, you might get an error down here. But again, as long as you select the heads that you need, deform and go to blend shape. And I'm going to name this facial BS. Create. I don't see any problems here. Very cool. And again, it wouldn't be a bad idea to just test things out. So not too bad. Okay. And once everything has had a chance to test things out, you're going to select this head over here to your actual head that's going to be skinned. So I haven't skinned this yet. That part's important. And I'm going to, once again, go to the form, blend shape, hit the settings. And I'm going to call this bridge underscore BS. Okay, you want to avoid naming everything the same way. Now, unlike the bridge, the head that we have over here, the bridge, you're going to keep this at a value of 1 at all times. Because check this out. Whatever I change on this one will be changed for my original. Yeah, I'm happy about that too. And as I said before, remember, you can mix faces together if necessary. And that's basically what we want to do with this. Oh, by the way, if you do accidentally leave something mislabeled by mistake, you can go into the Windows animation editors and the shape editor. I believe you should still be able to rename this over here. Yep, looks like it can. So this is the right brow down. Or should I say, yeah, right brow down. Yeah, there we go. Yep, someone's going to be upset about that one. Cool. So, yeah, she's pretty much set to go, and that is pretty awesome. Now, at least for that part. Now, I'm also going to be doing the same thing with the eyebrows. Going to select all the eyebrows here. Oh. Again, make sure that you have everything relabeled. Eyebrow up. Sorry, left eyebrow. Eyebrows left up. Accidentally named this twice. And eyebrows left down, and this one is, nope, this is why it's a good idea to always check. Left down, so this is going to be right down. Right down. There we are. And now that those are all ready, I'm going to put those on this one, which is basically my bridge. Yep, already named. Again, go to the form. Go to blend shape. I'm going to call this eyebrows BS. Hit create. No problems. If there's an issue, you'll see this area either get pink or red, basically saying you that's not possible, which basically means you either selected something you weren't supposed to, or you might have added some geometry you weren't supposed to. But now that I've done that, I can basically go over here, go to my original. Again, order's important. Basically, what you wish to, the original, the one that's changed, to the eyebrows we have over here. And yeah, just going to go to deform and call this eyebrow bridge underscore BS. Don't forget that BS part. And create. And if everything worked the way it's supposed to, keyword is if it worked the way it's supposed to, I should be able to go to my eyebrows BS, and yeah. Don't forget though, you have to make sure that you do the facial expression and the eyebrow. So that's important. Okay, well that was basically fixed that up entirely, so that's pretty awesome. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to call this also, save as, skinning 03, because that hopefully will be the last part that I need to skin, and I'm going to hit save. And in the final video we're doing today, I would like to show how to do the actual skinning for the last parts. I'm going to show at least a good chunk of it, and hopefully that will get you started. So we'll end this right here, and I'll see y'all in the next video.